Welcome back, everybody. It is 4:59 p.m. October 19th, 2017. And 5 years ago to the day, you are currently looking at Hurricane Sandy making its way from the Caribbean up to the east coast of the U.S. before it made its left hook into Atlantic City, New Jersey. Now, as you notice, in the top left-hand side of the screen, you see that front wall. A very similar situation to what we had with Jose sitting out off the coast of New York and New Jersey for days and days. This front wall was expected to push Sandy out into the Atlantic Ocean, being a non-issue for the U.S. But then, as we all know, this thing took a sharp left turn right into Atlantic City. Now again, the reason I'm saying 5 years to the day is because October 19th was the day that the National Hurricane Service first recognized as Sandy, which would be later named Sandy, as a tropical wave. So that was the next named storm. That was the first day we heard the word Sandy as far as a storm goes, and that was 5 years ago today, October 19th. In the U.S. alone, Hurricane Sandy killed 42 people in New York, 12 people in New Jersey, 9 people in Maryland, 6 people in Pennsylvania, 5 people in West Virginia, 4 people in Connecticut, 2 people in Virginia, and 1 person in North Carolina. The remaining number of the 149 total killed by this storm were all in the Caribbean, right as Sandy was beginning to form. So, just wanted to touch base on this and let you guys know it has been 5 years since we had Hurricane Sandy in late October. Alright, now on to the Japan Typhoon and Storm Brian, which is actually my name, believe it or not, heading towards Ireland in the UK. Alright, and to clear up a little bit of confusion, now just to show you, the storm heading towards Ireland and the UK has been named Brian. That's because the storm is forming in that area. Now, if you remember, Ophelia was a named storm that also went towards Ireland and the UK, caused a lot of issues, one of the strongest storms to ever hit that area, and they're actually projecting Storm Brian to be just as bad, if not possibly worse, and that's because of a double low pressure that's going to be hitting the area. I do have a couple charts pulled up just to show you real quick, but just to clear up the confusion, they had a storm earlier in the season called Aileen. It was right here. It wasn't that big of a deal, if I'm not mistaken, but it was a named storm. They named these storms based on the seriousness of the storm. It's not called Hurricane Brian, it's called Storm Brian. And if you remember, Ophelia was already a named formed storm in the Atlantic, so it kept that name. They won't change names as they cross into different parts of the ocean or different parts of the world. They will keep that name unless a storm were to break down. Like, for example, if Ophelia broke down on its way to the UK and became anything less than a tropical depression, that storm would have been renamed to something new if it formed again. But because it held its shape and its form and its cyclone, it kept the name Ophelia. So it's technically the third storm that's going to hit the UK and Ireland as Brian, even though it's the second on the list. So because this storm formed so close to them, they use this name off the chart. If that happens again, the next one would be Carolyn, it looks like. So that's why they chose this name, Brian. And once again, that's my name, so I got to cover this storm. So here we go. Alright, this is one chart from the MET office. Now, if you notice, this model has the low, or the eye of this storm, passing over top of Ireland, it looks, and actually closer to North Ireland, which is part of the UK, and then up into Scotland. So this is one version you have. Now pay attention to these lines here. That's what's very important. That's what they're very concerned about. That shows a very low pressure. If you notice, it starts at 997 and then quickly drops about 24 points on the bar readings to 962. That is a drastic drop. That is this storm forming and getting strong very, very quickly. Now again, it's hard to tell if this thing's going to be a straight up hurricane if it hits this area, but regardless, guys, just with these bars you see here, these circle bars, this is going to be a very strong storm. It's going to bring a lot of wind. It's already known as a rainmaker. It's going to have a whole lot of moisture inside of it, and it's backed by a high pressure. You can see that H in the beginning of this frame here. I'll let it play one more time. See this H here? This H is a high pressure, and that's part of the Bermuda Atlantic pressure that we always talk about. And that's what's forcing this storm from west to east so quickly, and also aiding in the pressure dropping so quick. You can see the pressure rises again into the 970s, but we need to understand this thing could shift. It could hit the areas of southern Ireland first, and if it does, it's going to be a much lower pressure number than it is when it gets up towards North Ireland in the UK. So this is after a landfall that it drops. You can see it makes landfall right around here and then drops to 976. So this is a very serious storm, guys. They're already preparing for it in the UK and in Ireland. They know what's coming. The MET is a great weather service. They're very accurate with their stuff as far as storms that are close to the continent. And just very important to keep an eye on this, guys. This is going to be a serious situation. I'm going to keep more updates on this throughout the next 2 days, but it is projected to hit, it looks, Saturday by 12 o'clock. That's the projection as of now. Now, here is another model I want to show you. And now, if you notice on this one, this is from the Weather Channel. You can see here Storm Brian. This is projected to be a little bit south, almost underneath Ireland, closer to Cork, and then goes into the Irish Sea, and then into areas of the UK. Now, this is south of Scotland. If you remember, the other model had this thing coming up, had Storm Brian coming up here, and then hitting around North Ireland. That's where we saw that 972 pressure, and then went up through Scotland. So there is some disagreement still going on. If I were living in the UK and in Ireland, I'd be looking more at the MET versions of this model, the first one we looked at, for it to be more of a northern path. But again, things may change, guys. Any slight little change in its path, even over the next 2 days, can make drastic differences on where this thing makes landfall. Now again, even though this is not a hurricane or may not be a hurricane, it's going to bring hurricane force winds. That is an absolute guarantee. We could be talking, again, wind gusts of over 100 miles an hour. And especially if this thing stays under Cork, Ireland, and goes into the sea here, that's going to cause major issues for all these coasts here. If this thing stays north and goes up towards North Ireland and Scotland, these areas won't have as much to worry about. It doesn't mean that they won't get affected by this storm. They absolutely will. This is a very big system. All you have to do is look at these rings, guys. This is all one giant system here. So, with that said, we need to be aware. Everyone that lives in this area, even as far east as London, needs to be prepared for this storm. Not so much on the back end coasts here, even though they are part of this area. You will get a lot of wind, a lot of rain, but you won't have that storm surge coming in from the ocean. Most of that's going to happen on this side of Ireland here, this part of North Ireland, and if this thing once again stays south underneath Cork here, it's going to cause a lot of issues in the sea. So, guys, you got to prepare for this storm. It's coming. Regardless whether it's a hurricane or not, it's going to be a big issue. And I will bring updates once again. I'll keep everybody posted. If you have any questions or anything like that, please leave them in the comments section or email me. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. So, all right, let's talk about this typhoon really quick. Actually, really quick before we get into the typhoon, just wanted to jump on Tropical Tidbits really quick and just verify some info for you. This is the European model, which, as I shown before, the MET Weather Service projected this eye to be over north of Ireland, more of a hit on North Ireland and Scotland. And you can see here on Tropical Tidbits, it's pretty much the same story here. You can see the eye of it right here, but look at that pressure, guys, 964. That is the pressure you would see with a Category 3, possibly a Category 4 hurricane down here in the Caribbean. So this pressure is super low. That is aiding to the strength of this storm, and just look at the size of this wind field, guys. It's 2, maybe 3 times the size of all this landmass put together. All right, that's how big this thing is. Just the deep purple colors alone, you could fit all of Ireland, North Ireland, and most of Scotland right in this purple area here, just to give you a scale of how big this thing is. Now, as I move forward, you can see the eye. It's hard to tell because it skips a lot in between these two areas. A lot of speed going on here. This thing's moving very quickly. I'm going to show you that on another chart too. But you can see it skims right across this area. So that's the areas of concern. Again, anyone that lives in that whole area needs to be concerned. But as far as the eye of this storm, and you can tell a lot of the severe weather is to the south of the eye, which is going to start moving up in this direction. So that's going to cover basically this whole area, guys. You got to be prepared for this, all right? Now, just to give you an idea of the speed, just look at how quick the jet stream is moving the weather up in this area. You can see it loop down this way, and then it begins to curl right there. You can see this is part of Brian right there. You see this area pass. This was basically Ophelia, and then here's Brian right there going bzz. It's being pushed right into that area very quickly. That's a mix of the jet stream and that low pressure we're seeing. All right, now on to the typhoon. All right, and Typhoon LAN is making its approach towards Japan. We have Japan right here. You can kind of picture Tokyo in this area here, very close to the coast. May get some very severe storm surge and wind and rain from this thing. This chart here is a water vapor chart from the U.S. Navy. Now, I want you to look at how deep these red colors are, guys. This is very significant here. This is a lot of moisture built up in this thing. So, with Japan being basically a strip island, you can kind of compare it, not in size, but as far as its placement to Long Island, New York. It kind of just sticks out into the ocean here, and this thing's path is bringing it straight up this way, and then it's going to roll across the coast, totally covering Tokyo in this area. The reason I'm bringing up Tokyo is because it's an area people are familiar with. I know it's in Japan. This whole area is Japan here. But if you guys remember that MJO effect we were talking about in the previous video, that could be a very big concern. Now, the idea with that is that this storm is going to roll up here. It's going to get picked up by the jet stream, and then once it gets to the west coast of the U.S., once it passes Alaska, you can see the tail of Alaska. That may be the tail of Alaska. I could be wrong about that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. But once it brings it up into this area, it's going to whip down the west coast, bringing a lot of bad weather to the northwest. And then, in turn, that could ride down the west coast of the U.S. and then curl into the Caribbean, causing cyclones in that area. And that's why they call this thing the MJO effect. It's known to cause out-of-season cyclones in the Gulf and the Caribbean. So we need to keep an eye on that for one reason. Second is because this is a very powerful typhoon. Now, I have Vent to Sky here so we can check out some of the timeline with this thing, just to get an update. I have it set on 10 meters, so that's where most of the wind will affect us as people. I use the higher wind altitudes to get an idea of the direction, but we'll keep it here for now. Here is Friday the 20th, Saturday the 21st, Sunday the 22nd, and we are now going to start getting those effects right off the coast here. You can see, just follow these white wind line, guys. It's going to be pulling water off of these coasts, and as of right now, it's going to start pushing it into this area. So picture the water being pulled from here all the way around in a full circle, and then boom, pushed right into the coast here. And that's going to happen all the way up the east coast of Japan here. Here's Monday the 23rd. You can see just in one day alone, from here to here, it's already covering that amount of space. So we'll go hourly. Let's go back to the 22nd. Here's 2 a.m. on the 22nd. Here's 5 a.m., 8 a.m., and now you're going to start seeing those major effects on the coast here from 8 a.m. on the 22nd Sunday on. 11. A lot of water being pulled out of this port right here and being pushed right into this area. 2 p.m. Here's 5 p.m. Almost a landfall right here by Osaka, it looks like, right in this area. So again, after water has been pushed into this area, it's going to be pulled back out and then forced into this area. And here's 8 p.m. Pretty much a landfall just south of Osaka here. And then there's 11 p.m. and we are direct landfall now, looks like just to the east of Tokyo. So Tokyo is going to be in this one way or another. And then once after this timing, guys, I'll do a little bit forward here. this is when we're going to start watching this with the jet stream. So this whole system is going to get pulled across and then possibly pulled down the west side of the U.S. and could cause issues in the Caribbean, and beforehand may cause some severe weather issues in the Northwest. Alright guys, I know that's a lot of info. Sorry about the long video, but I wanted to touch a lot of things here just in case I didn't get another one out later tonight. Thank you all for sticking with me. Any questions or concerns, please leave them down below. Instagram and Twitter, and you can email me. Alright guys, you guys are great. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.